Okay, here we go. We're gonna do some quick boards. Go up, please. You want to use, I want you to use variation of parameters to solve this system right here. This is the same matrix that we used in the problem that you guys did for homework, or you handed it on Google Classroom last time around. So you can reuse your capital X and you can reuse your capital X inverse. What changes here is this monkey f of t thing, right? So now we've got 100t and then minus 50t. Fair warning, you're going to need to use some integration by parts. Just be really careful with negatives. That's the biggest place where you can mess this up. And I will, in fact, show you how I messed it up really badly. And then I'll show you how to do it right. But I want you to give it a shot first. This is based on a book problem of yours. But go ahead, pause, do it just like it was class. Okay. Okay, so let me go down to the correct answer. This is what you should get for your XP right here. And then this is what your final answer should be. C1, 1, e to the negative t, and C2, 7, 1, e to the 5t plus this thing. So 110t plus 68, and then minus 80t plus 74. Before I show you how to do it correctly, I want to show you at my done so wrong, my failed attempt. And hopefully this will help you see a couple spots where you should like take shortcuts or condense your work or not mess it up. I think my mistake was like in this integration by parts, and like this thing, I tried to integrate that by parts, and then I got here, and I just didn't recognize that that these two terms here could be added together, and it makes it a lot easier, a lot less spaces to mess it up. So when I went and redid it after being a little frustrated, here's my x, e to the t, or sorry, e to the negative t, and then 7 e to the 5t, e to the 5t. X inverse from the last problem was 1/6. This mess right here, e to the negative e to the t, 7 e to the t, e negative 5t, negative e to the negative 5t. My new work, I made sure to write out exactly what all of the matrices were, so that you all could take note of it and understand where we should condense work and where you can get weird pitfalls and stuff like that. So when I multiply this, I go across and then down. So that means this guy is going to get multiplied by this, and this guy is going to get multiplied by that. In this, and then I add those two pieces, right? So the mistake that I made in the previous one, where I totally jacked it up, was I thought of this as like two separate pieces or a square matrix, right? But this is a column vector right here, 2 by 1 matrix, right? So when I get this, I can then go and combine these two terms into this. All right, so I had a moment there. I was like, are you kidding me? And I looked at these guys and I was like, negative 100 and negative 350 definitely don't give me 75, right? But then I just said to myself, oh yeah, I divided by 6, right? So if I do that, that negative 100 minus 350 divided by 6, I get 75. Same thing here, 100 plus 150. Those are like terms divided by 6. Sorry, 100 plus 50, like terms divided by 6, I get 25. So when I do my integration by parts, I'm going to do it on these guys. I'm going to carry the, for this first one, I left the 75 on the left side, and then I integrated the e to the t's. You could do it either way. For this next one, I think it makes sense to pop the 25 on the right side, integration by parts, because I've got a 25 and I recognize that this is going to divide into that. And it just avoids having extra numbers over here and fractions over here. So I do my integration by parts. I get 75t e to the t plus 75 e to the t. That's going to be the integral of the top row. And then I get minus 5t e to the t minus minus 5t e to the negative 5t minus e to the negative 5t. And that's all with this integration by parts. So then I come up here, and that line right there is what I just read with the 75s, and this is the other integration by parts. Once again, this is a 2 by 1. That's a column vector, right? So the next part of the variation of parameters formula is to do x times that thing that we just got. What we just got there was x inverse times f of t integrated. So now I got to do, this is my x. It's a 2 by 2. So notice I go across and then down, right? So this e to the negative t term gets multiplied by this entire top row. That's actually really convenient because e to the negative t times that and that, they're going to cancel each other out and just leave me with the minus 75t and plus 75. That's what this is right here. That's that first part of that matrix multiplication. Then I do 7 times the bottom piece. Or sorry, 7 e to the 5t times the bottom piece. And look, I got an e to the 5t. It's going to cancel with the negatives. So it's just going to give me 7 times that, which is the 35t, and then 7 times this, the minus 7. Same thing for the bottom row. I'm going to do this multiplication, and notice like the e to those line up in the same way the bottom row multiplication as it did for the top, right? And that it's sort of like what variation of parameters does. It may seem like, well, that's crazy, but that's just what it does for us. So, and then once you combine all these guys, and I'm totally using a calculator to double check all this stuff. You may be better at mental math than me, but I ain't taking risks. It's enough work to do all the integration and the multiplication and the matrix work that I would use a calculator to do all this basic math. After you combine these terms, I get 110t plus 68. This is a 2 by 1 again, and then minus 80t plus 74. That becomes the xp. Remember the solution x is xc plus our xp. So this is the xc that we would have gotten from like the fundamental, right? Or from eigenvalues and eigenvectors. They kind of come from the same thing. And this is my xp. And I took note again. Look, this is an x vector, right? And this in its entirety is a 2 by 1 vector. The top row would be c1 times 1 e to the negative t plus c2 times 7 e to the 5t plus 110t plus 68. The bottom row would go like that. I'm not going to read it out loud, but you should get the gist. Hopefully that's good. Oops. Okay, so I'm going to... All right, here we go. Problem number 2. This is another one out of your book right there. This is new matrix A, so we're going to have to redo all that fundamental matrix work. I've got A is 1, 2, 2, negative 2. And then the input force monkey thing is 180t and then a 90. Before I tell you to pause, this one is fundamentally the same type of problem in the sense that it's got this 180t, so it's like a polynomial type thing on this. So we're going to have the same integration by parts work. So if you had a little bit of trouble with the previous one, take note of where you might have like made some mistakes, just like I did in my original attempt, and see if you can be more careful going through those spots where you made some mistakes. So now you can pause and do the whole problem. Practice is what makes you good at this stuff. We learn math by doing math, right? Even if we're stuck at home hiding from a virus. Okay, gonna show the answer in a moment. You best have done it. You hear me? You best have done it. Okay, the answer, and I didn't write it in the full solution. This is just what XP is. But XP is negative 60t minus 70 in the top row. And then the bottom row, negative 60t plus 5. Okay, if you got that, great. If you didn't, let's walk through and see if we can see where any errors. You could go and try yourself. In fact, I will tell you that I had I had some of it right, but not all of it, and I had to go through and track and find my error. So you might even be able to see where I erased some stuff there. I had an error in that um, I just when I did my integration by parts, normally it would be this product right there. I accidentally wrote a 72 up here, right, right there at first, and then that just cascaded into an error. And there are parts of it were right, the parts of it weren't. But one tiny little thing will change it, but hopefully it's the same structure. Anyway, all right. So eigenvalues are 2 and negative 3. The vectors are 2, 1, and 1, negative 2. I elected for this fundamental matrix, you could have done it the other way around. Took this one first because it was like just more positive everywhere and it made me happier. 2e to the 2t is the first, well, I should 2e to the 2t, then an e to the negative 3t, and then an e to the 2t and a negative 2e to the negative 3t. My inverse, I switched these guys. So I switched that with that. So this guy went right there. This guy went right there. And then I negated my B and my C. So this and this got negated. And and then this is the DEET out front. In order to do the DEET quickly, I just take the coefficients. 2 times negative 2, that's negative 4. And then minus 1, that gives me a negative 5. I put the negative up top just because it made me happier. And then this product gives me e to the negative t. In order to make this less lines of work, I take the e to the negative t and pop it up top. If that's too many steps for you to skip, then don't skip that many steps. Show more work. I like double check everything when I do it like that. Anyway, get this. X inverse times f is this. I recognized, oh, that's divisible by 5 and that's divisible by 5. So I can get rid of this coefficient by dividing it into those guys. That gave me a 36 and 18, smaller numbers, easier to work with. Then I did my matrix multiplication across and down. So I got this times the 36t plus this times the 18. That gave me 72t minus 72 t e to the negative t plus 18 e to the negative 2t. Same thing, this got multiplied by the 36t, this got multiplied by the 18, and they get added like that. I got to do 15 minutes with the free version of Screencast-O-Matic here, so I need to go faster. I do my integration by parts. Ba-bam, ba-bam. That should all be okay. If you need to pause and double check your work on there. Once again, I left the numbers over on this side and over on this side because I just felt it would be easier, just like I said with the last one, instead of having them on the left side and getting a bunch of fractions. My integral, I wrote out what I wrote out this integral and then the integral of this piece. I could have combined them, but I wanted to watch for errors. So this is the integration by parts integral, and then this is the integral of the second piece, the second entry in that column vector back there. Same thing, integration by parts, integral of the other thing. And then I combine the two like terms, this guy and that guy, this guy and that guy, they combine. They give me this. And then I multiply by my, on the left side, by my fundamental matrix, across and down in the same way that we talked about in the last one. Just be really careful. I like to write that stuff out in that scenario right there to make sure I don't try to do too much mental math in my head. And just be really careful with negatives, be really careful with just organizing your work well and being procedural, and you should be able to get to this correct answer. So hopefully you feel pretty good practicing some variation of parameters, and we will continue to practice next time I quote see you. All right, peace.